Is this you? Do you find yourself often all in on the next cheap hot altcoin? Do you find yourself constantly mashing F5 on CoinMarketCap like some kind of addict? Well, today we're going to take a look at what you should and shouldn't invest in when it comes to cryptocurrency. Also, later in the video, we'll be breaking down what my portfolio looks like by percentage. Before we go into exactly what my breakdown is, I'm going to answer some important questions that many people, especially new people to this world, have been asking me, and I want to get some good information out there. Before we jump into it, quick disclaimer to protect myself. First off, this is for information and entertainment. It is not official investment advice. Second off, if you do choose to invest in anything, it always has risks. Investments have risk. That's part of the way that they work. And finally, this is a very volatile market. Know that going into it, and also know that I do own everything I'm talking about in this video because I'm showing you my portfolio. So just want to get all the disclaimers out of the way. First question, and this is maybe one of the most important questions that I get all the time, is what percentage of my net worth should I put into cryptocurrency? Now, there are many schools of thought in terms of what you should be doing here. One school of thought includes a more nuanced position, which is you have to put all your money in because I'm supposed to go all in? All right, here we go. Tron, right? This is a complex question, and there are a few factors you want to consider before ultimately making your decision. First off, and this is a very important one, what is your risk tolerance like? Are you going to be able to live with a day where you lose 20% of your cryptocurrency investment? Because those days are going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when and how often. So are you okay living with those swings? Now, I think one reason why, I'm a poker player and a lot of poker players move into crypto is that they're used to dealing with stuff like losing a lot of money in one sitting. And so I feel fairly well accustomed to that. That aspect of crypto didn't really seem that much, didn't really seem to faze me too much. But if you're someone that really dislikes having those types of swings, like they upset you, then don't invest a lot of your money into it because they will happen. Another important factor to think about is what situation am I in as far as what risk I can take? If you're an older person, you're not going to want to go super ham on the cryptos, because if you do that and lose, you're going to put yourself in a really bad spot going into retirement. If you're someone who's in their 30s or 40s or maybe even late 20s and you have a family and you have children, obviously, again, don't go super hard because you don't want to put yourself in a bad position. Think about the spot that you're in. What kind of debt do you already have? What kind of obligations do you have? The more obligations you have and the older you are, the more conservative you should be, and vice versa is true. Look, if you're a kid, if you're like 20 years old or 18 years old and you want to go hard, I think it's totally fine to do that. Another important aspect is, what are your other opportunities? Like if you said, Doug, I'm considering getting into cryptocurrency, but there's this legit guy I know that will pay me 100% annually for loaning him money. I'm gonna have to say go with the loan. Wait, actually, how legit is he? Maybe be careful. It's not fair, but not everyone has the same opportunities. So if you're someone in a good spot with other opportunities, go a little lighter. If you're someone that doesn't have those options, you might want to go a bit more. Another important aspect when it comes to this is, what's your strategy going to be? If you're going to take mainly a buy Bitcoin and maybe Ether or some of the other larger currencies, then it's fine to be a bit more heavy on how much you invest because your overall volatility decreases. It's much less likely that we're going to see Bitcoin get cut down by 50, 60, 80% than it is some of these alts. Again, not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it's less likely, it's more established. Now, that also means that your upside is much lower because the market cap for Bitcoin is already so large, but because your risk is lower, you can invest more into it. If you're planning on firing on the cheapest and hottest altcoins, then you might want to be a little more conservative on how much you put into it. All right, Doug, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's get down to some numbers. All right, I would say that I think a good place to be would be 10 to 50%. Now, I would probably advocate for something a little more like 25%. But if you want to go ham and go half, that's fine. If you want to go more conservative, that's fine too. I think a problem that many people have, though, is that they get just too decisive one way or another. You always want to be diversified across many different industries with different investments. You never want to be all in on something. So I think that, when you look at this strategy, look guys, cryptocurrency is one of the fastest growing things right now. I believe in digital currency as the future of money. I love what's happening. I love the technology. I love what's going on. But there's a lot of risk. So while I think it is the most profitable thing to be in right now, I also think it's one of the riskiest things to be in right now. That means that I think you absolutely should have 10% in your portfolio to get some of those returns, but also to protect yourself from really serious losses if things go badly. Again, though, keep in mind the things that I said before. If you're an older person with responsibilities, then you should maybe more like 10%, or maybe even less if you're in a spot where you don't want to lose anything or you can't afford to lose anything. But if you're a young person, really trying to go for it, really trying to build something, I think it does make sense to go hard. I know I sound like a broken record, but just one last time here, because I really care about you guys and I want to see you do the right thing. Understand that governments and banks could step in and either implement legislation or stop processing transactions that allow people to buy these currencies easily or legally. And if we see some kind of shutdown from major governments, particularly ones like the US, we would see catastrophic immediate effects in the market. I think long term that probably cryptocurrency will still win, but in the short term that it could lead to some serious problems. So be responsible, guys. I care about you. I want to see you guys succeed, but that doesn't mean you have to do it all right now by trying to hit a home run. Next question, should I invest in ICOs? This is a question that I get asked all of the time. It's sort of a ridiculous question because there are so many different projects going on and they're all unique. Like lumping them together like they're all the same thing doesn't really make much sense. But if you do find good ones, I think it's completely fine and I would advocate for investing in them. I saw a great infographic on this that I can't seem to find. Maybe my video editor could, but basically it showed the profitability of ICOs over time. And they've essentially been becoming less and less profitable, mainly because so many people have seen the success of ICOs and they're trying to do their own. So there are way less legitimate projects compared to how many projects there are in total. Now, there are probably more so than ever legitimate projects coming up. It's just you have hundreds and probably we'll see thousands of teams of people putting together projects that don't even make any sense or are scams or whatever. So it's gonna get tougher if you're just picking random ICOs to make money by jumping into. It's gonna come down more and more to actually looking at projects in a detailed manner. I will also say if you can invest in something at pre-sale before the ICO, you can oftentimes get better rates. However, normally you need to have some kind of pull. You either have to have a lot of capital to invest or you have to have some kind of contribution to the project. Basically, you're only going to get into pre-sale for good projects if you can contribute something or you're very close to the people that are operating the project. When it comes to pre-sales, it's usually tough to get in the door, so you might not have those options. Also, it's way better to get into an ICO than it is to get into a pre-sale if it's a better project. Don't just do something because you're like, I'm getting a better rate, I gotta take this. No, invest in the things that you think have the most long-term value and not just what's currently a better discount. For our last couple questions, I'm gonna head over to Twitter. I actually asked you guys what you wanted to know when it came to your bankroll and cryptocurrency. Let's take a look at some of the tweets. Here we have a tweet from Jay Keeler. He asks, do you primarily invest in index funds or real estate outside crypto? What overall percentage of net worth in crypto? It's a bit more of a general question, but I'll answer it anyway. I think it's good to have a fairly equal ratio between all of them, at least for me personally. Again, it might matter, it might be different for you. The problem with crypto is that it seems like every time I try and do that, crypto just blows up and then I have more crypto. So I would say do your best to find an equal ratio there, but also understand it's not always going to be possible. We had a great question here from Bobby S. How rich are you really? I didn't want to answer it, but I decided to come clean. This is another question I get all the time. Do a crypto challenge, start with $1,000. I don't day trade. I invest in things that I think have good value long-term. That's what I do. I don't really believe in technical analysis too much. I know there are a lot of people out there that really love drawing triangles. And if you want to draw some triangles, do it to your heart's content. But I think a lot of the results from technical analysis end up being kind of biased because there are so many people doing it that naturally some will end up being more correct. I'm not saying that there aren't patterns, there probably are. I guess if I had to put some numbers on it, I would say I think technical analysis is like 10 or 20% good information and like 80 or 90% complete fucking bullshit throwing darts at the board, but could maybe help you a little bit. Not really my cup of tea though. Okay, let's take a look at my actual crypto portfolio. So here we have it. This is my portfolio. First thing is, it's always important to make sure that your biggest hold is at core Bitcoin. Holy shit. We've made a mistake. All right, so basically this is gonna be a nice little do as I say, not as I do bit, but What happened here was responsible at the time. It's just this is the way that things have gone. I invested in BitClave at pre-sale, and now it's gone up so much that by the current market value, it's worth more than Bitcoin. But for some of these new coins that are coming up, you want to be a little careful with the value that you see on the exchanges. Look at the total amount of volume. If volume is low, then it's less likely to be a real legitimate price. If someone came in and sold a decent amount of them, well, then it would end up crashing the market and it could drop significantly. So when you look at something like Bitcoin, that's a really strong position. It's not likely to move too much compared to some of these other smaller coins that have much bigger swings, and people could crash the market by unloading. Until about 6 months ago, I was fairly Bitcoin maximalist. I had somewhere around 80-90% of my currency in Bitcoin and a few other things I thought were good projects. But you know, times have changed. And part of the problem is that, if this is a problem, that so many of these alts just run up huge values that you end up having more of them compared to Bitcoin. I would definitely recommend reallocating towards Bitcoin, towards Ethereum, towards the bigger ones as these things are successful, because otherwise your portfolio can end up looking kind of like this. What BitClave is trying to do is allow customers to have full control over their data by you getting to decide if you want to disclose that information to retailers. I like what BitClave is doing with this project, but this is obviously just too goddamn much BitClave, and I will be selling some of it at some point in the near future. And that's the thing, even though saying things like that might end up hurting the coin's value, I'm always going to be straightforward with my audience, because I care way more about people being able to trust me than if I make as much money as possible on some coin I'm promoting. We're going to move on, but if you're interested in learning more about BitClave, I put an article up in the description below. Next up, Old Faithful, tried and true, Bitcoin. And I don't think you should ever be this low on Bitcoin, to be honest with you. This is too low even for me. Part of it as well is Bitcoin's value has dropped while everything else is rising. But you should really try and maintain more Bitcoin if you're looking to have a diversified portfolio. Upsides are smaller, so if you don't like that aspect, it's fine to have less Bitcoin. But in times of crisis, when the alts are getting smashed, Bitcoin tends to hold its weight a little bit better. Wax is another project I'm excited about. It's a decentralized exchange for the transfer of digital assets, mainly focusing on video game skins. So long term, I think it could be applied to other things, but that's what they're trying to do right now. It was also created by OP Skins, which is the largest player in the video game skins game today. So I'm excited about what's going on there too. If you want to learn more, there's a link in the description below. A few of these currencies I have because I'm sharing part of a master node. Master nodes are different in what they do from currency to currency, but the bottom line is they all help facilitate the transactions that are happening on the network. Now, that might be that they allow certain ones. It might be they keep a copy of the ledger. It could be all kinds of different things. I don't want to get too deep into what master nodes are, but I have a few currencies where I'm sharing part of a master node, and what it does is it actually makes you money in that currency over time. So Dash, Pivx, and Block are all different currencies where you can do this, and that way you actually generate passive income in that currency. Another thing you might see here from this portfolio is that I do like the privacy coins.
Privacy coin, privacy.
Pivx, Monero, Z Classic, these are all coins with a central focus on trying to protect a user's identity when making the transfer. Now, I like these fundamentally, and I think that long run, these coins have some of the best potential to be one of the biggest players in the space. But I feel there's a bit of a drawback with government interference on allowing these transactions to take place. Now, I'm not saying that they can stop them. I know most of these networks are completely immutable, but at the same time, if they introduce legislation that makes them illegal to own, well, you're going to see a dip in the price. The government has a hard enough time trying to shut things down, and if you're completely anonymous, they basically can't. So I could see some more intervention on specifically those currencies. However, I do like them more, so there's a bit of a trade-off there. One of the most baffling things to me is the fact that Zcash is more popular than Z Classic, because they're basically the same thing, but Z Classic doesn't pay 20% founders rewards to the people that created the coin. It's basically just better Zcash, yet Zcash has the larger market cap. There's one last coin I want to talk about here from this list, and that is Lux. This is a coin that I got into recently, and I think that it has the potential to be a really big coin. Now, I don't want to be that guy, you know, I don't want to be the guy that says, this is the future, guys, you got to get in now, because it really might not be. Lux is somewhat like the Ethereum version of Dash. I don't want to get too much into it, especially because I'll probably do a video on this in the future, so we'll have that coming up in the next week or so. At some point, I'll probably do videos on most of these, or at least some of these coins, to help you guys know what they're all about. But this is where this is a really important thing here, guys. I am not being paid for this. I am not being paid to promote any coins. Yes, I'm invested in them, so if you buy them and the price increases, I do make money, but I'm not being paid by anyone to make these videos. And in fact, I'm gonna go ahead and say this right now. I will never accept payment to promote a coin on this channel ever. It's simply too important for me to maintain credibility. Now, I will almost always be invested in the things that I promote or talk about because I gain money from them going up over time and I believe in them. And if that makes you upset and you're not okay with that, I can understand where you're coming from, and keep that in mind. You know, look at this video with a grain of salt, knowing that I do benefit from these things increasing in value. I want to talk about one last thing before we go. You know, I moved over to crypto from poker. I think a lot of you guys probably know me from there. And one thing I've been kind of struggling a little bit with lately is that it's tough not being an actual expert in the field. That's right, I'm okay saying it. I am not a cryptocurrency expert. I'm knowledgeable, I've been in the space for a while, but I'm not an expert. Look, I got into this because 4 years ago, I was a poker player and Bitcoin actually just, you know, helped my life be better. I needed to move money around a lot. I constantly had to send or receive. It's tough with liquidity. Poker sites have bad transfer functions or have to get money to a location. Bitcoin actually just helped my career. So I was in Bitcoin, you know, maybe a little bit because I also liked what Bitcoin was doing, but mainly for utility. I used Bitcoin because I liked what it allowed me to do. That's why I got in. I'm not some tech guy or developer who's been studying this stuff my whole life, or really much of my life at all, you know? So I am not like a super knowledgeable crypto expert. There are tons of channels out there, if that's what you're looking for, that I'd encourage you to follow, like Jimmy's Song. But I just want to be honest with you guys. Like, a lot of times you ask me questions in the chat and I look at it and I'm like, I don't even know what that means or what that is. So, you know, I guess it's just tough when you come from an industry where, you know, you were an expert. Like in poker, I am an expert. If someone asks me a poker question, I have a very good answer and I probably feel strongly about it. Whereas now I'm in a new space and I get questions and I look at the sentence and I'm like, that's English, right? Because, okay, it's English. That's interesting. Now, I'm also not an idiot. I've been around for a long time and I've learned some things. So I think I know what the best plays are in terms of what I want to buy, or what the value of different coins are, where it comes from, or which projects I don't like the futures ahead of them. But I'm also not a complete expert. So I just wanted to be honest with you guys. Like, my main focus here, and this is actually a big problem in cryptocurrency. The problem is that everyone is trying to shill something because they make money from you guys buying it. And I just don't want to be that guy. You know, I'm okay with doing it in a way where I'm promoting something I believe in, but I'm not okay in doing it to make money off of my audience. That's why about a year ago, I felt it was important to create a news source that people could get as unbiased as possible news from to learn about things. Look, it's not possible to make people completely unbiased, but I wanted to do my absolute best so that people that are coming into the space can have a source that they trust to give them accurate information that's not just trying to get them to buy. So if you are trying to learn about things, we have an amazing writing team at coincentral.com. I'd recommend checking it out. Got a couple links in the description below. A lot of great stuff going on over there, so I'd recommend checking it out. That's gonna be it from me, guys. Thanks for joining. I hope you learned something today. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We got a ton more videos on the way, so stay tuned.